Good evening, welcome. We're going to get started with the program this evening. We're putting on an informational meeting about environmental review, excuse me, my mouth's dry. The environmental review process for the Gateway Pacific Terminal and Northern Santa Fe Custer Spur proposed project. And I need this. The presentation is being sponsored by Whatcom County and Washington State Department of Ecology with support from U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and Governor's Office of Regulatory Assistance. We'll be doing the introductions and go over ground rules in the next few minutes. There'll be a presentation that Tyler and Jeannie, who I'll be introducing more fully in just a minute, will be giving on the environmental review process. And after that, we're going to be bringing more of the agency folks up here to answer questions. We're going to start that at 7 o'clock. At 8 o'clock, we're going to have an open house for about half an hour out in the Commons. So there'll be some posters out there and some other things that I'll talk about a bit more later. My name's Jane Dool. I'm going to be the facilitator this evening, and I work with the Governor's Office of Regulatory Assistance. Our two presenters this evening are Tyler Schroeder, Planning Manager for Whatcom County Planning and Development Services, and Jeannie Summerhays, the Regional Director at the Washington Department of Ecology. So I wanted to spell out a few ground rules before we get started. We wish that everybody will listen respectfully to all of the speakers this evening. And please hold applause. Applause is appreciated, though. Thank you. I also want to remind you this is not a public hearing, and it's also not a scoping meeting, and we'll be talking a bit more about that during the presentation. In case of disruptions that get beyond our ability to give a program this evening, we reserve the right to close this meeting. The purpose of our meeting is to describe the environmental review process for the proposed project under both state and federal environmental policy acts, to answer questions about the environmental review process, and to help you to understand how to be effective in giving comments when public comment periods are open. The presentation that Jeannie and Tyler will be giving includes a NEPA-SEPA briefing, a description of the process that the project is going to undergo, including agency roles and responsibilities, public participation plan, the scoping process, and the draft environmental impact statement. We'll also touch on permit decisions toward the end of the presentation. So why are we having this meeting this evening? An informational meeting is kind of an unusual thing to do for the NEPA-SEPA environmental review process. We understand that the review of this project is critically important to the public. And so we wanted to take this opportunity to give you more background on how do you engage in the public process. We also want to show that we are listening. We've had numerous requests to have some sort of educational forum. So that's what we're doing this evening. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Jeannie Summerhays. Thank you.
There we go. I'm Jeannie Summerhays. I'm with the Department of Ecology, and I'm our regional director out of our Bellevue office. So Whatcom County, Bellingham are within my region, and what goes on up here, including this project, are very important to me. And I want to say, first of all, that I am very grateful and happy to see all of you here wanting to learn about how to participate in this process effectively. So, as Jane said, I'm going to be covering, I'm calling it NEPA-SEPA 101. We could spend all day, a whole day class on NEPA-SEPA, but I'm going to have 3 short slides on it. Then I'll talk about what the steps are in the process related to this project, where we're at in the process, and very importantly, the scoping process and how you can effectively participate and get your information to us, the agencies, the co-lead agencies. to factor in for the development of the environmental impact statement. So we'll go ahead with what I'm calling NEPA-SEPA 101. Now I know there are people that are very knowledgeable about all this, but I know there are many people who some of this is new. So I'm going to start with some basic information. So NEPA is the National Environmental Policy Act. It came about in 1969. Following that, for the state, is the State Environmental Policy Act, 1971, and it was modeled after NEPA. Both sets of these set environmental policy and agency responsibilities to protect the environment. It's really surprising to look back and see that there were not a set of requirements that looked holistically on the environmental impacts of a project. It was really groundbreaking policy and regulatory work. What does it do? The bottom line is it ensures the environment is considered before decisions are made on a project. At the end of the process, you will have a document, the Environmental Impact Statement. Some of you have seen EISs, some of you may have not, but it's a comprehensive document that will provide an impartial discussion of first, the probable significant impacts of a proposal. Reasonable project alternatives, and this includes the no action alternative, which I will talk about a little bit more, but that's very important to note. And what measures could be taken to avoid, first of all, or minimize the impacts of the proposal. So the key aspects that come out of NEPA-SEPA is a document that's going to inform the agencies, decision makers, and we should have had the word in this line, the public, in terms of the significant impacts of a proposal. You should have something that you can look at and go, this is a comprehensive list of what the impacts could be associated with the project. Addresses regulatory gaps. Prior to NEPA and SEPA, we had various permits. A number of agencies are represented here. My agency is here. We issue permits, and they may tie in with a specific issue, like wetlands or stormwater. But there were still gaps that were not being caught and not being analyzed in some sort of comprehensive review, and that's what SEPA and NEPA provided. And very importantly, the impacts are identified early. Sometimes before, it wasn't until we got to the permit stage, which was later in the game, months, perhaps years later, that you are trying to identify what the impacts are of a project through the permit process. In terms of the agencies, SEPA applies, the State Environmental Policy Act, to Washington state agencies and local public agencies, like Whatcom County here. NEPA applies to the federal agencies and the tribes. And you'll be hearing from the federal agency here with the Corps, with Randall Perry during our panel. And what comes out of this process for the agencies is that it informs us about the environmental consequences before we make the permit decisions. So we as agencies that are issuing the permits rely tremendously on this foundational document, the EIS. All right, so that was NEPA-SEPA 101. I hope you got it all. So now let's move into how NEPA-SEPA applies as we're talking about this particular project. Now I want to preface this saying, in this presentation we are not going to be going over a number of specific and technical details associated with this project. We'll give an overview of what some of the key aspects of the project are. The focus is on how you will be participating and hopefully want to be participating in the public process for scoping. But the project, and I'm sorry that's sort of dim. You can see, of course, here, I got a little pointer. Ooh, that doesn't even show up. Is it there? Oh, there it is, little tiny dot. Okay, there's Washington State. And then you can see Puget Sound here. And this box up here is where the project generally is located. And of course here we have Bellingham Bay, we have Bellingham where we're sitting right now. For orientation up here is Blaine. This green area here, that is not the entire project area. The green represents heavy impact industrial zoning, but this outlined area here in red is the area associated with the project. And it is about 1,200 acres that are the area associated with the SSA project. They are, last I saw, I haven't seen the most recent application, but planning to develop approximately 350 acres. The other portion of both projects we're going to be looking at, as you saw in the overhead, we talked about the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Custer Spur. That is a line here. Where's my dot? Where is it? Oh, there it is. Okay. That's so embarrassing to have like 800 people see the dot before I do. You've got a 6-mile line approximately that will be put in. There will be wetland fill associated with that. All of this property right now is undeveloped, to my knowledge. Is that right, Tyler? Existing rail line, there will be a second line. Thank you. Okay, so photograph, just sort of an image, just so people can sort of visualize the project. I mean, what you have here is, it will be the exportation. It's a dry bulk commodities export facility. The estimate that was listed for the amount of coal to be exported would be, at full built out, 54 million tons of coal. And there could be other commodities that are going to be exported. This circle here, the large one, is the coal storage area. The smaller loop over here to your left is a covered area that could be used for other commodities. Those commodities would be sent out on the trestle that you see here. That's the straight line coming out. And a wharf would be constructed. It's planned for 3 berths. So that's the, oh, okay. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you told me that. Mind anyone's, can you see? Okay, okay. There's someone right here with a dog in their lap, so I'm not worried about them. As long as the owner can see, that's good. Okay, so, so that is the proposed general project. So now let's move to the next slide. I don't know if it'll advance from here. Yeah, very good. Let's talk about the key agencies that are involved with the NEPA-SEPA process. There are co-leads. There's 3 of us, federal, state, local level. I've been at Ecology for many, many years. I have never worked on a project that had 3 co-leads. So that tells you how unique this project is. The co-leads are Whatcom County, Department of Ecology, my agency, state agency, and the Corps of Engineers. Whatcom's the lead on SEPA. The Corps, of course, has NEPA responsibilities. Whatcom County asked the Department of Ecology and the state to be co-leads, and we agreed to be so. Why 3 of us? And why are we all working together? And the reason is we want to integrate the review process. We don't want to have 2 parallel processes that the public will have to be tracking. We hope, and it will, avoid duplication of effort and provide comprehensive review. And of course, we'd be collaborating and issuing a combined NEPA-SEPA document. And it'll be holistic. We're not going to have parts of it color-coded for SEPA and parts for NEPA. It will be a comprehensive document that will cover the requirements of both sets of regulations.